Testing the audio is fine.
Testing the audio is fine.
Okay. Everything fine?
Everything fine?
Yeah. Okay, the topic of today is Baroque art. This is the last part of what I call the Christian Europe. And at the end, of course, I will talk a bit about literature. It is not much to talk about literature in this topic, but anyway. And let the things prepare. Okay, so we're going to start. Baroque art. Baroque, as an artistic period, happened in the beginning of the 17th century in Italy. It has a meaning of lot of decoration, movement that is the opposite to classicism. The world is a theater, the own existence of a theater act. All the arts are united. So the map of Europe. Italian Baroque will develop mainly in Rome. The power of the popes is still very strong. At the 18th century begins the Rococo decoration. Urbanism, open city, the walls are broken, harmonic plant, the city is an artwork. Piazzas like Piazza del Campidoglio, Piazza del Popolo, Piazza Navona, Piazza de San Pedro. And fountains like Acqua Felice, Acqua Paola, Barcaccia, or Trevi. Here, Piazza del Campidoglio, Piazza Navona, and Fontana di Trevi, as example. Architecture. Curved lines are the most abundant. You will see this, it's just amazing. There are very interesting architecture in here. Mainly facades of two bodies with superimposed columns at Roman style. Use of frontons and volutes and a dome is also usual. Light effects and chiaroscuro. Il Gesù by Vignola is the first example of Baroque architecture, mainly because the interior completely decorated with paintings, planned of one nave. So this is Gesù. This is also Gesù. It's very, very well decorated. Domenico Fontana with Palazzo del Laterano, Santa Maria Maggiore, and Royal Palace of Naples. This is the Palazzo del Laterano. Carlo Maderno. He made the facade of San Pietro, very horizontal facade, so you can see the dome by Michelangelo. Jan Order, chiaroscuro by the columns. It will appear later when I put more pictures of the San Pietro. Santa Susanna, Sant'Andrea della Valle, Santa Maria della Vittoria, and Palazzo Barberini. It was made by various artists. Maderno made the wall and the garden, Borromini made the spiral stair, and Bernini made the facade. Here's San Andrea della Valle and Palazzo Barberini with this wonderful stair. Gian Lorenzo Bernini. Baldacchino di San Pietro, Solomonic columns, figures of angels and children, earth crowned by a cross in the upper part. It means the celestial Jerusalem, in the Rome of the popes. Celestial Jerusalem is the celestial city. It also appears in the Bible at the end, in the Apocalypse, if I remember well. Shield of the Barberini. Well, Santa Viviana, Castel Gandolfo, Greek cross, dome, and Santa Maria Assunta in Aricia, circular plant, dome, and chapels. Here, the Baldacchino di San Pietro is inside the Basilica of San Pietro in Vatican. Santa Maria Assunta, Aricia. Palazzo Montecitorio, Palazzo Ciglio Descalzi, Louvre projects. He made 3 projects when Louis XIV invited him to France, but at the end, none is made. San Andrea al Quirinale, curved facade and wall, giant pilasters and dome. Here the Palazzo Montecitorio and San Andrea al Quirinale. Piazza di San Pietro, colonnades, 2 fountains, and obelisk. The piazza is hugging the visitor. You can see the Blessed Loggia where the Pope is talking to the people from any side, and Scala Regia. So here, Piazza of San Pietro, and here the facade and the interior. Il Borromini. This one has much more interesting architecture. Palazzo Spada, San Carlo alle Quattro Fontane, complex central plant, dome similar to honeycomb, giant columns, cloister is octagonal. Sant Ivo alla Sapienza, courtyard with colonnade and arches, central plant, regular stellate hexagon, dome with a spiral and a cross. San Carlo alle Quattro Fontane, you see with the curves, and this San Ivo. Archibasilica Laterana, there are sculptures of the 12 Apostles, San Agnese in Agone, in Piazza Navona, curved facade, verticality towers, San Andrea delle Fratte, a tower, Propaganda Fide, Oratorio dei Filippini, made of brick, luminic contrast, it also called San Felipe Neri, and Palazzo Falconieri. Here, the Archibasilica Laterana, San Agnese in Agone, and Oratorio dei Filippini. Pietro da Cortona, Villa del Pigneto, Santiluca e Martina, Greek Plant, Santa Maria della Pace, Curved Facade, Santa Maria in Via Lata, San Carlo al Corso. Here examples. Carlo Reinardi with Santa Maria in Campitelli, Piazza del Popolo, churches, twin churches, and Santa Maria Maggiore, only the apse and the obelisk. This is the Piazza del Popolo with the twin churches. Martino Longhi with Santi Vincenzo e Anastasio, trios of columns. See, 3 columns here, instead 1 or 2. Baldassare Longhena with Santa Maria della Salute, central plan, octagonal grid dome. Guarino Guarini with Cappella della Sacra Sindone, made with black marble, nervous imitating the basketry, and Palazzo Carignano, wavy facade, made of brick. This one is very impressive, especially the interior. Cappella della Sacra Sindone. It's like a dream, this. Very wonderful. This, the Palazzo Carignano with the curves, is really impressive. This Cosimo Fanzaga with Cartuja of San Martino. So they have to be correct in this text. Filippo Jubara with Superga, Venaria, Palazzo Madama, La Granja in Segovia, and Royal Palace of Madrid. Is Superga, La Granja in Segovia, and Royal Palace of Madrid. Luigi Vanvitelli with Santa Maria degli Angeli, Royal Palace of Caserta. Giorgio Massari with Palazzo Grassi Stucchi. Ruggieri with San Firenze. Different architectures and the buildings. Francesco Dotti with Santuario della Madonna di San Luca. And this is the end. Alessandro Specchi and Francesco De Sanctis made the Scalinata della Trinità dei Monti. I hope I don't have to correct everything. Anyway, sculpture. Sculpture is united to architecture, monumental sculpture, movement, and scenography. Stefano Maderno with Saint Cecilia. Francesco Mocci with Annunciation. It is a couple of sculptures, the Virgin and an Angel. Alessandro Farnese, Monument in Piacenza, Equestrian Sculpture, and Saint Veronica in St. Peter, Rome. Alessandro Algardi, he did portraits and was the opposite to Bernini. He was more classical. Tomb of Leo XI, Tomb of Innocent X, Expulsion of Attila, the Pope appears as a triumph of the church. Ercole Ferrata, Angel of St. Angelo Bridge, and Monument of Giulio del Corno. Pietro Bernini, this is the father of Bernini, San Martin, Naples, and Fontana della Barcaccia. Now, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, the great sculptor of this period, naturalins. He made religious and mythological sculptures, desire of movement with free composition, imbalance, and great realism and expression. Rape of Proserpina, it shows Pluto taking Proserpina to the underworld. The realism is astounding, especially that detail with hand. But yes, I love that detail. Guatamaltea, other mythological theme, the god who took care of Jupiter at the beginning, while the other gods were devoured by Saturn. Here, the rape of Proserpine, I just love this. It just looks like real skin. It's wonderful. David, despite being a religious topic, it is an excuse to rescue the classic thematic of the Greek athletes. Apollo and Daphne, it represents this mythological episode, and you can see Daphne becoming a tree. He plays here with non finito, and it is a sculpture that depends where you see it. You will have a different view. Santa Viviana, Constanza Bonarelli, Innocent X, Saint Longinus, these are portraits. Here David, and Apollo and Daphne, this is also impressive. Ecstasy of Santa Teresa, it is in the Cornaro Chapel. This is the perfect example of scenographic sculpture incrusted in the architecture. The group is the saint and an angel. The rays are made of bronze. It is fantastic the way he worked the clothes, and also the face of the saint. Blessed Ludovico Albertoni, very similar to the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, but only appears a figure. Only a figure appears. Tomb of Urban VIII and Tomb of Alexander VII. Here, Ecstasy of Santa Teresa. Here you see this idea of theatre and sculpture inside the architecture forming as a whole. So this is a perfect example. This Blessed Ludovico Albertoni, very similar, and Tomb of Urban VIII. Fontana del Tritone, Fontana di Quattro Fiumi, the famous fountain in Piazza Navona with the obelisk. The sculptures that appear are representations of the four major rivers of the four continents through which papal authority had spread. The Nile representing Africa, the Danube representing Europe, the Ganges representing Asia, and the Rio de la Plata representing the Americas. Just a moment, it's automatically saving. Fontana di Quattro Fiumi. Louis XIV, these more portraits. Francois I, Constantine of the Vatican with movement, Throne of St. Peter. It is in the Vatican. It's a symmetric composition, representation of the Master, use of bronze, and behind there is a window with the Holy Spirit. Camillo Rusconi with Gregory XIII and San Andrea. Pietro Bracci with Tomb of Maria Clementina Sovietsky. Antonio Corradini, his sculptures are fantastic. You can see the body through the clothes. Truly impressive. Just see this, and later I will show more pictures, and it's amazing. Giovanni Maria Morleiter with Gerolamo Emiliani. Giuseppe San Martino with Cristo Velato, also very wonderful about the clothes. Giacomo Serpotta, he worked with stucco decoration of Oratory of Santa Rita, San Lorenzo, San Francisco. Filippo Parodi with Glory of Saint Anthony. And now painting. New elements, basically in realism and light, religious and mythological painting. Caravaggio, he had a hard life. His paintings are very realistic and the light is called tenebrins, light effect. The figures are illuminated over a dark background. Boy peeling fruit, rest of the flies into Egypt, Bacchus, Canestra di Frutta, card sharps, Saint... Well, all of these are names of paintings, so I'm not going to read everything. It's a bit pointless. These are examples of paintings, and here I just put money. This Bacchus, falling in the horse. Here you see his style with very, very dark. Here Judith and Holofernes, and this is the tension of St. John the Baptist. This is the head of St. John the Baptist, and this David and Goliath. The Carracci. They had an eclectic style, founders of a painting academy in Bologna. And all of these are just names of the paintings. So the main painters are the three Carracci are Ludovico Carracci, Agostino Carracci, and Annibale Carracci, being Annibale the most prolific or most important. Here Ludovico Carracci, Agostino Carracci, and Annibale Carracci. Bolognese school, influence of the style of the Carracci. Guido Reni with different, all of this, because they have so many paintings that I just because this is like description of videos and it has a limit in the words, so I just write the names of the painting. So here Bolognese school, there are Guido Reni, Francesco Albani, and Domenicino. Guido Reni, the colors here are very wonderful. This is Hippomenes and Atalanta, Francesco Albani. This is Apollo and Daphne. And this Domenicino. This is the Civil. Guercino, Paolo Bonti, Felipe Rosselli, and Mastelletta. Here Guercino. This is Return of the Prodigal Son and Jesus and Mary, I think. Christ Resurrected and the Virgin, yes. And this Paolo Bonzi, Felipe Rosselli. These are Still Life and Mastelletta. Roman school. Here come artists of different regions. Here artists come from different regions. Orazio Gentileschi and Artemisia Gentileschi. Here, examples of Orazio Gentileschi. This is Judith and Holofernes, but the version of Artemisia is much more wonderful. These are mythological episodes. This is Danae and the Reign of Gold, if I am correct. This is Cupid and Siche, and this is Diane the Huntress, like Artemis. And this Artemisia Gentileschi. These two are self-portraits, and this is Judith and Holofernes. Bartolomeo Manfredi, Orazio Borgianni, Andrea Sacchi, and Pietro da Cortona. Bartolomeo Manfredi, Orazio Borgianni, Andrea Sacchi, and Pietro da Cortona. This is very wonderful. Neapolitan school with influence of Caravaggio. Battistello, Bernardo Cavallino, Luca Giordano, and Salvatore Rosa. Here an example of each one of them. Ruopolo and Francesco Solimena. So this from Francesco Solimena. Ruopolo is a still life. I didn't have space to add here. Venetian school, it is the most representative, with fantastic landscapes. Sebastiano Ricci, Giambattista Piazzetta, and Giambattista Tiepolo. Here, one of each. And finally, Canaletto. These are the landscapers. Canaletto, Bernardo Bellotto, and Francesco Guardi. Here, Canaletto, Bernardo Bellotto, and Francesco Guardi. Okay, I'm going to show more pictures with this here. This is Urbanism, Piazza del Campidoglio, del Popolo, Piazza Navona, Piazza di San Pietro, Fontana dell'Acqua Felice, Fontana dell'Acqua Paola, Fontana della Barcaccia, Fontana di Trevi, now architecture. El Gesù, here from Domenico Fontana, Carlo Maderno, this is the Facade of San Pietro. These kind of facades are the same, like the style, obviously the style is the same, but I mean the morphological shape is always the same, like two floors with columns. This is bigger and then this is smaller. Triangle here, it's always the same. You see here again the same, and the same. I have some bit bad memories about this because I remember studying this in university and it's like all the facades are the same, like how to know what is each one. It's like memorizing the pictures. Then Bernini, the Baldacchino, Santa Viviana, Castel Gandolfo, Santa Maria dell'Assunzione d'Aricia, Palazzo Montecitorio, Giglio Scalchi, projects of Louvre. These are the projects that were not done. The first one, the second one, and the third one. San Andres del Quirinal. This is the plant, the inside. San Pietro del Vaticano. Scala Regia, and then Borromini. Palazzo Spada, San Carlo alle Quadre Fontane. San Ivo. Propaganda Fide, San Felipe Neri, Palazzo Falconieri, this one, the Chapel of the Saint Sindone, Palazzo Carignano, now the others. I'm very close to sculpture. Okay, sculpture now. Stefano Maderno, Francesco Mocci, Alessandro Algardi, Ercole Ferratta, Pietro Bernini, and now Bernini, yeah, Lorenzo Bernini, Gotham Altea, David, Apollo and Daphne. You see here the non finito made on purpose. Portraits, San Longinus, Ecstasies of Saint Therese. French portraits, the Throne of St. Peter, Camillo Rusconi, Pietro Bracci, Antonio Corradini is the most wonderful with these effects in the clothes. Como Serpota. Now the painting. Caravaggio. Carracci. Guido Reni, Francesco Albani, Tomenicino, Garcino, Paolo Bonzi, Felice Rosselli, Masteletta, Orazio Gentileschi, Artemisia Gentileschi, Bartolomeo Manfredi, Orazio Borgiani, Andrea Sacchi, Pietro da Cortona, Battistello, Bernardo Cavallino, Luca Giordano, Salvatore Rosa, Ruopolo, and Francesco Solimena. Sebastiano Ricci, Armani Painters, Giambattista Piazzetta, Giambattista Tiepolo, now Canaletto with the landscapes of Venice, some based in England, this is in England, this is also in England, Bernardo Bellotto, and Francesco Guardi. One moment, feel really hot. Okay. So now France. French Baroque is very classicist, with influences of Mannerins, courtly origin, palatial taste. Urbanism, Paris, Henry IV, Palace Dauphine, Palace Royal, Palace de France. Louis XIII, Ile Saint-Louis, Richelieu District. Louis XIV, Place des Victoires, Place Vendôme. Okay, this Place de France. Place Vendôme, Jardin des Tuileries, Boulevards, Gates of Saint-Denis, and Saint-Martin's Place. I confused with Palace. Place des Victoires, Place Vendôme, Place de la Libération de Dijon by Mansart, Place Ducal de Charleville by Meteseo, Villa Richelieu, and strongholds like Rocroi, Neuf-Brisach, and Chambord. Here, Neuf-Brisach. Okay, architecture starts. Architecture, Saint-Étienne du Mont, mix of Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque. Louis XIII style, Italian influence, Salomon de Brosse with Luxembourg Palace, Blair and Court Palace, Parliament of Brittany, Saint Germain's, and Saint Paul at Saint Louis. Jacques Le Mercier with Palais Royal, Sorbonne, and Val de Grace. Luxembourg Palace, Sorbonne, and Val de Grace. François Mansart, Sainte Marie de la Visitation, this one. Maisons Lafitte, Louis Le Beau, simplicity in construction and elegance in decoration, Paul Le Vicomte, Collègue des Quatre Nations. Paul Le Vicomte and Collègue des Quatre Nations. Louis XIV style, classical symmetric facades, very decorated interiors, with Louvre Palace, Les Invalides, complex for military troops, Liberal Bruant and Jules Sordoin Mansart, Saint-Pétrier by Liberal Bruant, and Versailles. Le Beau and Jules Sarduin Mansart as architects, Le Brun as painter, Le Notre as gardener, horizontality, great salons, gardens, room of mirrors, Grand Trianon and Petit Trianon. And see if I can put this better. Louvre Palace, Les Invalides, and Versailles. Louis XIV style, Rococo, lot of decoration, asymmetric form. De la Mer with Palace of Bees, Jacques Gabriel with Palace of Biron, Robert de Cotte with Palace de Stress and Palace Rohan, and others like Saint Louis and Ile and Bonsecours Chapelle. Palace of Bees, Palace of Biron, Palace Rohan, and Bonsecours Chapelle. This is the Pantheon of Paris. The style of Louis XVI is the beginning of neoclassicism. Angel Jacques Gabriel with military school, Servandoni Saint-Sulpice, and Soufflot with Pantheon of Paris. Sculpture, mostly bust, equestrian, allegorical, and funerary. Louis XIII period with Simon Guillain, Jacques Sarrazin, and Jean Barin, and these are just names of his artworks. Simon Guillain, Jacques Sarrazin, and Jean Barin. Louis XIV period with Pierre Puget, François Girardon, and Antoine Coixebox. Here again, different artworks. Pierre Puget, François Girardon, this one is very wonderful, and Antoine Coixebox. This one is Apollo and the Nymphs, yes, Apollo and the Nymphs. Louis XV period with Nicolas and Guillermo Cousteau, Robert Le Lorrain, Jean-Baptiste Lemoine, François Dumont, Edmé Bouchardon, Jean-Baptiste Pigalle, and Jean-Antoine Houdon. Then different artworks. Robert Le Lorrain, Jean-Baptiste Lemoine, François Dumont, Edmé Bouchardon, Jean-Baptiste Pigalle, and Jean-Antoine Houdon. Painting. Classicists decorate palace, portraits, and mythological. 17th century Italian influence mostly by the Carracci, Lenain, and Georges de la Tour. Especially Georges de la Tour is very interesting because this chiaroscuro, it remembers a lot of Caravaggio. Philippe de Champagne, Simon Bouet, Pierre Mignard, and Charles Lebrun. Here different artworks. Nicolas Poussin, he is in love with the Italian landscapes. He made Roman history paintings, biblical, mythological, and philosophical. Here are examples. Then Claude Lorrain, painter of lights. He does a lot of landscape painting. Nicolas Poussin, here Claude Lorrain. 18th century parties and portraits, mythological and feminine characters as deities, with Antoine Baiteau, François Boucher. This one, François Boucher. I remember reading about this painting and it was very polemic because this girl is most likely underage and so it's like naked. Jean-Honoré Fragonard, this is very famous, you will see when you see the paintings. Hyacinthe Rigaud with portraits of Louis XIV. Jean-Marc Natier, Maurice Quentin Latour, Jean-Baptiste Greuze, and Alexandre François Desportes. Here, this the String, very famous painting. Jean-Honoré Fragonard is very nice. Hyacinthe Rigaud with these famous portraits of Louis XIV, and here painting example of the others. Okay, I saw more pictures. I save. So this is urbanism. Architecture. A different palace. Now some churches. The Royal Palace. Sorbonne, Val de Grace, Santa Maria della Visitation, Maison Lafitte, Bolle-Vicomte, Louvre, Invalides. The garden is very wonderful. Salpêtrière, Versailles. Here are all the pictures of Versailles with a very big garden. This the inside. More gardens, more the inside. More other palace. Palace Rohan. And the Pantheon. Sculptures. Here just more examples of sculptures of all the artists. Jacques Sarracine, Jean Barin, Pierre Puget, François Girardon, Antoine Coixebox, Cousteau, Robert Lerorain, Jean-Baptiste Lemoine, François Dumont, Edmé Bouchardon, Jean-Baptiste Pigalle, and Jean-Antoine Houdon. These portraits. Now France. The painting. The name. Georges de la Tour. Philippe de Champagne. Simone Bouet. Pierre Mignard, Charles Lebrun. Nicolas Poussin. Many paintings of Nicolas Poussin. Claude Lorraine. His landscapes are very wonderful. Antoine Boteau. François Boucher. Jean Honoré Fragonard. This one has very beautiful paintings. Hyacinthe Rigaud. Jean-Marc Natier. Maurice Quentin Latour. And then two others. Okay, Netherlands. In 16th century, in Netherlands ruled the Habsburg. Charles V gives the throne to Philip II. It begins a repression against Protestants. Rupture. North will rule the Orange, and in North will rule the Orange with Protestants, Holland, and in South are Catholics. Flanders. Architecture. In Flanders, verticality, Gothic, Antwerp, City Hall, St. Carlos Borromeo. And Holland, with little decoration, City Hall of Amsterdam, City Hall of Leiden, Midmarken, and Mauritshuis of La Haye. So the Antwerp City Hall, St. Carlos Borromeo, Amsterdam City Hall, and Midmarket. Sculpture. Flanders is religious, with François Duquesnoy, Hendrik Frans Verbruggen, and that's all. In Holland, it is portraits and tombs, with Hendrik de Keyser, Rombaut Verhulst, and that's all. And Artus Kellinus, who worked in both tombs with different artworks. So here you see François Duquesnoy, Rombaut Verhulst, Artus Kellinus. And now painting. Very important painters here. Flanders, aristocratic and religious. Peter Paul Rubens, colorist. And now these different paintings. There are many famous paintings of Rubens that I'm sure you know. Three Grasses, the Judgment of Paris, the creation of the Milky Way. This one, I don't remember. A Bacchanal, I suppose. Let me see. Want to see Milky Way? Oh, I think it's this allegory of peace and war. This is a portrait with his family, and this is Apollo and the Serpent made by Rubens and Cornelis de Vos. Anton van Dyck, Jacob Jordaens, and Abraham Janssens and David Teniers. Anton van Dyck, Jacob Jordaens, Abraham Janssen, and David Teniers. This one is very cool. A painting of paintings. Adrien Brouwer, Peter Snyders, Adam Franz van der Meulen, González Coques, Franz Snyders, and Jan Sieberecht. Here one examples of each one. Holland, religious topics nearly disappeared, more portraits. Rembrandt ring, colorist, but as happens with other, when his life goes to ruins, paints other paintings, darker colors. His life went to ruin with the death of his wife Saskia. Then different, all these are the paintings. So here, Rembrandt ring is the self-portrait. This is the anatomy lesson. Sorry. This, I know the name in Spanish, but not the night watts. This is a piece of meat. This is Athena, and this portrait of this angry man. And I didn't think I saw this because I want to put any of Saskia. So City Hall of Antwerp, Amsterdam, Leiden, meat markets, La Haya. Now sculptures, François Duquernois, Hendrich Franz Verbruggen, Rombot Verhulst, Artus Kellinus, now painting. Rubens. Here are many examples of the painting of Rubens. Anton van Dyck, Jacob Jordaens, Abraham Janssens, has many nice paintings. David Teniers, Adrien Brouwer, Peter Snyders, Adam Franz van der Meulen, González Coques, Franz Snyders, Jan Sieberecht, now Holland, Rembrandt. Okay, Rembrandt and Saskia. This one maybe I should. I'm going to put this one. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to edit this, so give me some minutes. I'm going to put this one here. And now here, one moment. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, one moment. I put this in here. Okay, I continue now. Franz Hals. These examples of Franz Hals. Adriaan van Ostade, Gerard ter Borch, Peter de Hooch. Here different. Now we are entering this kind of paintings related with daily life, with Johannes Vermeer as the most impressive. Here you have different paintings by Johannes Vermeer. And the last ones are Verquip, Jan van Goyden, Willem van de Velde, Aert van der Neer, Paulus Potter, Mender Hovema, and Jacob van Ruysdael. Here are different paintings of each one. Albert Quip, Van der Goyden, Willem van de Velde, Aert van der Neer, Paulus Potter, Mender Hovema, and Jacob van Ruysdael. Here are more paintings of Rembrandts. I think this one is not considered by Rembrandt. Let me check. All canvas attributed to the Dutch painter Rembrandt, today considered to be a work by someone in circle. Circle of Rembrandt. Van Hals. Adriaan van Ostade, Gerard ter Borch, Peter de Hooch, Johannes Vermeer, Albert Quip, Jan van Goyen, Willem van de Velde, Aert van der Neer, Paulus Potter, Meinder Hovema, and Jacob van Ruysdael. Okay, Germany. In the zone of Germany happened the War of the 30 Years, and due to this, the artistic manifestations are scarce. Mostly in Austria is where we find artistic manifestations. Hello, Ananel, welcome. Architecture with Church of Cap in Waldsassen by George Dientzenhofer, Liechtenstein Palace, Klostenberg Convent, Salzburg Cathedral by Solari. Here are examples: Liechtenstein Palace, Albus Cathedral. Fischer von Erlach is the most important architect, influenced by Italian Baroque, by the curved lines of Bernini, but also of the French François Mansart and the classic Palladian villas, Collegiate of Salzburg, St. Charles Borromeo of Vienna, Schönbrunn Palace, Hofburg Palace. This one is the most impressive, St. Charles Borromeo of Vienna, with these columns. Schönbrunn Palace. Hildebrand, Kinsky Palace, Belvedere Palace, Mel Convent by Jacobo Brandauer, Church of Jesuites of Munich, Palace of Bonn by Robert de Cotte, a French, Theatre of Munich by François de Puivilliers. Balthasar Neumann was educated with Frenchmen with Birsenkleigen, Neresheim, residence of Burburg. Royal Palace of Berlin by Andreas Luther, also sculptor, and Wenceslaus von Knobelsdorff, who made the Opera of Berlin and Saint Susie. Just a moment because it's auto-saving. Malcolm Ben, Theatre of Munich, Resident of Würzburg. Now sculpture with Andreas Luther, Monument of Great Elector Frederick William I of Brandenburg. Oh, that was a big name. It's this one. Balthasar Permoser with Apotheosic of Prince Eugene and Martius and Bridge of Charles IV. The great part of the statues were made by Brockroff and Matthias Braun. Here, the examples. Now, painting, it is very scarce because the wars and religious beliefs. Adamsheimer, Schwarzenberg Palace, and Antoine Pesne. Here, Adamsheimer, the paintings of the Schwarzenberg Palace, and Antoine Pesne. And I'm going to save. I imagine Twitch with a live captioning system. It will be better for people like me who understand written English better. Combined with translation, it will be great. Yes, I totally understand. Also, my pronunciation is not perfect, so... Oh, well, at least you can see here the text. And also, you can pay more attention to the pictures if you don't understand very well. So don't worry. Here, examples of Germany, the Church of Cap. And also, when I saw this is in English, but when I saw this for extra picture, this is in Spanish, so I'm just showing this for extra pictures. Palace Liechtenstein, Convent of Kösterneuburg, Salzburg Cathedral, Salzburg Collegiate, San Carlo Borromeo in Vienna, Schönbrunn Palace, this is the inside, and the gardens, Hofburg Palace, with the insides, Kinsky Palace, Belvedere Palace, Convent of Melk. Here are some others, the Theatre of Munich, Würzburg Residence. Now sculptures. No, soon. It's a Lau von Knobelsdorff. Okay, now sculptures. Andreas Luther, Balthasar Permoser, and the Bridge of Charles IV. Another painting, Adamsheimer, the Schwarzenberg Palace, paintings, Antoine Pesne, and now England. Baroque in England was not very developed. Architecture with Inigo Jones, he was the first to use the proportion and symmetry from Vitruvius in his buildings. It was an influence for the later English Palladianese. Queen's House, Banqueting House. Here, the Queen's House. Christopher Wren, he rebuilt more than 50 churches in Baroque aesthetic. St. Paul Cathedral in London has a dome inspired in the one of Michelangelo in St. Peter, and the one in Val-de-Grace by Mansard. Royal Hospital of Chelsea, Royal Hospital of Greenwich, Hampton Court Palace, Tom Tower in Oxford. And then William Talman with his Chatsworth House. This is the St. Paul Cathedral. I visited this in person. Although I couldn't enter inside, it was night. But yes, it's very impressive. Hampton Court Palace, Tom Tower, and Chatsworth House. Sculpture. For religious reasons, there were iconic representations. Sculpture is mostly funerary. Nicolas Stone, Hubert Le Sueur, and Louis-François Rouillac. A great number of Frenchmen working in England. Yeah. Nicolas Stone, Hubert Le Sueur, Louis-François Rouillac. And now painting. Influenced by the painters in France and Netherlands, especially Van Dyck. William Hogarth, he did engravings too. For him, the paintings are acts of a comedy, so he made series of paintings. Then Thomas Rowlandson, and these are just examples of painting. William Hogarth, Thomas Rowlandson, Joshua Reynolds, elegance and colorist. Thomas Gainsborough, he began a landscaper and later he made portraits. George Romney, his favorite model is Emma Lyon, that is Lady Hamilton, to whom he paints many times. Then John Russell, painter of pastel, child of cherries, and Thomas Lawrence, he was named painter of the king. Alex, and here just examples. Here, Joshua Reynolds, Thomas Gainsborough, and George Romney, and John Russell and Thomas Lawrence. French being a mixture of Latin, Greek, Italian, German, English, Spanish. Yes, as French is in the middle of in the perfect spot to be in the middle of many different cultures. Landscapers with Richard Wilson and Thomas Gainsborough. Here, Richard Wilson and Thomas Gainsborough. Now Spain, but first I saw extra pictures. Queen's House, Banqueting House, Whitehall, St. Paul Cathedral in London, Chelsea Royal Hospital, Greenwich Hospital, Hampton Court Palace, Tom Tower, Chatsworth House. Now this sculpture, Nicola Stone, Hubert Le Sueur, Louis-François Roubiliac, Handel, the music composer, Newton. Now painting, William Hogarth, Thomas Rowlandson. This is called Dance of the Dead. Joshua Reynolds, Thomas Gainsborough, George Romney, Lady Hamilton, John Russell, Thomas Lawrence, Richard Wilson, and Thomas Gainsborough with the landscapes. Now Spain. Spain is a bit long, so it's missing Spain and then a bit of Latin America. Just a moment for it, so it can say. Baroque in Spain is often called Siglo de Oro or Golden Century, mostly because literature and painting. And when I talk about literature, I will talk mostly about Spanish literature. Just a moment. It's a bit slow because this PowerPoint is very heavy. It got so many pictures. We in France often hear about the Spanish flu. Oh yes, I know what you mean. Spanish flu that happened many years ago and it was spread to everyone. Architecture. Post-Renaissance period. Renaissance plant and Soretin decoration. Juan Gómez de Mora, he works in Castilla with Church of Convento de la Encarnación, Madrid City Hall. This bit. Plaza Mayor de Madrid and Clerecía de Salamanca. Giovanni Battista Crescenzi with Panteón del Escorial and Alonso Carbonell with Palace of... If I translate this literally, is Palace of the Good Retirement, Palacio del Buen Retiro with gardens. Madrid City Hall, Plaza Mayor de Madrid, Panteón del Escorial. Pedro Sánchez with San Isidro Cathedral in Madrid. Pedro de la Torre, Chapel of San Isidro. Alonso Cano, he worked in Andalucía and he was also painter and sculptor with Facade of Granada Cathedral. Basílica del Pilar in Zaragoza of various styles with 4 towers, 2 of them being bell towers, and El Salvador, or also called Laseo in Zaragoza, also of various styles. The tower is Baroque. Here, Chapel of San Isidro, Facade of Cathedral of Granada, Basílica del Pilar in Zaragoza, El Salvador in Zaragoza. Churrigueresco period. It is not well named really, but the historiography named it so. More decoration. Pedro de Rivera, he worked mostly in Madrid. Facade of Hospicio, Church of Montserrat, Fuente de la Fama. José de Churriguera, Catafalque of María Luisa de Orleans, Salamanca Cathedral. Narciso Tomé with the Transparente of Toledo Cathedral. Obradoiro Facade in Santiago, Loyola Church, and San Luis Church. Here are examples. Fuente de la Fama, Salamanca Cathedral, and Transparente of Toledo. Mixed period. Mix of, I suppose I should call this mixed period. Mix of French and Italian influences. Teodoro Ardemans with Palace of San Ildefonso in La Granja, influenced by the French Palace. Giacomo Bonavia, Royal Palace of Aranjuez, Church of Santos Justo y Pastor in Madrid. Jaime Bort with the Facade of Murcia Cathedral, and Francisco Carlier with Iglesia de las Salesas Reales. Here Palace of San Ildefonso, Facade of Murcia Cathedral, and Iglesia de las Salesas Reales. I have to go now. Have a nice day. It's fine. Have a nice day, you too. Thank you for passing by. Sculpture. It is basically religious. Polychromy, use of wood, clothes, naturalist, emotions are realist. Castilla with Gregorio Fernandez, and these are examples of his sculpture. All of these sculptures are religious, mostly Christ and Virgin. So Gregorio Fernandez, Alonso Villabrite Girón. These sculptures are very realistic in the sense like if they show Christ with the blood and suffering and such, they show it very explicit. And also the Virgin crying and such. Madrid with Manuel Pereira. Andalucía with Juan Martínez Montañés, Juan de Mesa. Here again, Christ with the blood falling. Felipe de Rivas, José de Arce, Luisa Roldán, and Pedro Duque Cornejo. Here again, all of them religious. Alonso Cano, Pedro de Mena y Medrano, and José de Mora. Here more virgins. Then in the east, it is Francisco Salcillo, and here the processions, it's like kind of festival, and they take the sculptures in procession, and the sculptures are about the crucifixion of Christ. This is the Last Supper. No painting. Okay, so first this. So architecture. Alonso Cano, Basílica del Pilar, El Salvador, Pedro de Rivera, José de Churriguera, Narciso Tomé, more examples, Teodoro Ardemans, Giacomo Bonavia, Facade of Murcia Cathedral, and Salesas Reales. Now the sculpture, here more examples of the sculpture. Gregorio Fernandez, and also they put the clothes to the sculptures. Alonso Villabrigirón, Manuel Pereira, Juan Martínez Montañés, Juan de Mesa. Like if you notice, this sculpture has real clothes, like the clothes are not sculpted. It's like they create the sculpture and this snake and then they put clothes on the sculpture. Felipe de Rivas, Luisa Roldán, Pedro Duque Cornejo, Alonso Cano, Pedro de Mena y Medrano, José de Mora, Francisco Salcillo. Of course, there are also sculptures with the clothes, but there are also sculptures that are like naked. I will show later in Google, so you will see. So you see here, they are hidden Christ. This one, for example, has real clothes. Okay, I'm going to search like. mm, let's see. Like I want to see if I can show how it is, like the skeleton of the sculptures under the clothes. I don't know very well how to search. Don't know how to search. Really don't know. I check in YouTube in case I can find a video, and if not, then I just continue. No, this is only audio. This is a video pretty much like mine's. No, but it's like they don't sculpt the sculpture under the clothes. It's like they just make like very simple. So I want to explain how it, even if it's a bit bad. So it's like, imagine like this is the head of the sculpture, and this is the neck. So here, instead of sculpting the body like very well sculpted and realistic, and they just make a square, for example, a cube, because the cube is not going to be seen because they are going to put the clothes, the real clothes, and they put the clothes, and then they just put the real clothes on it, so it looks like the sculpture is wearing clothes, and it's like more real, but the inside is, it's just kind of fake. I think you can understand a bit. Sorry, I can show that. I remember I have also seen that in person in museum and in a workshop, but I don't know how to find. So well, I think you can imagine. Okay, painting. The great painters of the Siglo de Oro, the Golden Century. El Greco is between Renaissance and Baroque. The painting is Caballero de la mano en el pecho. Luis Tristán, disciple of El Greco, influenced by Mannerins. Realins. And this is Santa Monica. So El Caballero de la mano en el pecho. El Greco is the knight of the hand in the chest. And this Santa Monica is very realistic because the details in the face. Juan Sánchez Cotán, he made still life paintings with geometric composition or parabolas. Juan Bautista Maino, he went to Milan, and then different paintings of Juan Sánchez Cotán, Juan Bautista Maino. Pedro Dorrente with red stones in the colors. Bartolomé Carducho, he went to El Escorial in the court of Felipe III. And Vicente Carducho, brother of Bartolomé, also painter of the king. Pedro Dorrente, Bartolomé Carducho, and Vicente Carducho. Francisco Ribalta, he went to Italy and was influenced by Tenebrins. Francisco Pacheco, not mentioned. He was the master of Velázquez, and it is important to know that he writes theory of how to represent the religious images in painting, like the Christ with four names instead of three, with horizontal arms. Here, Francisco Ribalta. José de Rivera, he lived in Naples, influenced by Caravaggio. Cinco Sentidos, 5 paintings about sight, smell, taste, talk, ear, and then different examples of paintings. José de Rivera. This one is a woman. This is a bearded woman. Francisco de Zurbarán, he lives in the reign of Felipe IV. He paints the clothes very realistically and also the expressions of the faces, influenced by Tenebrins. Here, Francisco de Zurbarán. Diego Velázquez, influenced by Caravaggio, Rubens, Vermeer, Rembrandt, Rivera, Zurbarán, and Valdés. He's the greatest painter in Spain in this moment. Great realism, he made hand scenes, portraits of kings, religious paintings, and allegories. So many paintings by him. Diego Velázquez. These paintings are very famous. And these two also very famous, especially this one, Las Meninas. Bartolomé Esteban Murillo, he paints more genre scenes, especially with children. I always remember him by paintings about children. Alonso Cano, he was also architect and sculptor. And Juan de Valdés Leal, the most Baroque of all of them. Here examples, Alonso Cano and Juan de Valdés Leal. Okay, so more paintings here. El Greco, Luis Tristán, Juan Sánchez Cotán, Juan Bautista Maíno, Pedro Dorrente, Bartolomé Carducho, Vicente Carducho, Francisco Ribalta, Francisco Pacheco, José de Rivera, Francisco de Zurbarán, Diego Velázquez, Bartolomé Esteban Murillo, Alonso Cano, Juan de Valdés Leal, and finally Latin America. Baroque in Latin America is often called as Ultra Baroque due to the excessive decoration. Convents formed by a stone cross, atrium, open chapels, posa chapels, church, and other rooms. Open chapels were in the exterior, so the priest could talk to the indigenous that didn't want to be in a closed building. Posa chapels are for processions. Examples are Tochimilco, Huejotzingo, Atlatlaucan, Izamal, Calpan, Cholula, and Tepeaca, with aspect of fortress. Just a moment, it saves. Huejotzingo, Atlatlaucan, Izamal. Urbanism. Zócalo of Mexico. Europeans wanted to build ideal cities based in the perfect cities of Renaissance. Cerro Rico Imperial Villa de Potosí is a minor city. The route of the conquest was from Sevilla to Veracruz, where it is the fortress of San Juan de Ulúa. Then to Cartagena de Indias, Boca Grande and Boca Chica. Then to Nombre de Dios in Panama, where it is the fortress of Portobelo with cannons. And then to La Habana with the fortress of El Morro. And from here again to Spain. Zócalo of Mexico, Fortress of San Juan de Ulúa, Fortress of Portobelo, and Fortress of El Morro in La Habana. First cathedrals. At the beginning it was Gothic like Santo Domingo, but soon began the Renaissance language, basically the Spanish Renaissance. Generally they have three naves, towers built against earthquakes, and dome. Mexico Cathedral is the most important. It was built over the main temple of Tenochtitlan, the Aztecs. Other examples in Mexico are the cathedrals of Puebla, Guadalajara, Mérida, and Oaxaca. The Cathedral of Pátzcuaro is an unrealized project, but very interesting. In South America, it is the Cathedral of Lima and Cusco. This is just an introduction, Mexico and Cusco. Baroque in Latin America is often called as ultra Baroque due to the excessive decoration. See Santa María Tonantintla. Like this is ultra Baroque. The general characteristics of Baroque here is the use of Solomon column, stipite, altarpiece facade, plant and geometric decoration, Corinthian order, towers, and semi-octagonal arches. In Mexico, there are constructions of long profile in facades with tall towers, dome, and polychromy. Examples in Mexico are Santísima Trinidad, San Martín of Tepoztlán, Zacatecas, Santa Prisca, Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe, San Francisco Acatepec, with impressive polychromy, being the colors references to the Virgin, white and blue, and Saint Joseph, green and yellow, Palacio de la Inquisición, arcos degenerantes that are flying, and also semi-octagonal arches in facade, Pocito Chapel, El Sagrario, and Ocotlán of Tlaxcala. Here you see. San Martín of Tepoztlán, Santa Prisca, Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe, this San Francisco Acatepec, this is my favorite. You see the colors here is amazing. The Palace of Inquisition, this the Arcos Degenerantes. I don't know how to translate this in English. Degenerative arches is like an arch, but it's like flying because there is no column here. Capilla del Pocito, El Sagrario. In South America, due to the earthquakes, the constructions are not very tall and the dome and even the balls are not very used. In Lima, examples are the Convent of San Francisco, the Convent of Santo Domingo, the Convent of La Merced in Quito. Convent of La Merced in Lima, Convent of San Agustin, and Palace Torre Tagle. In Cusco, there are also examples like the Palace of the Admiral or the Puno Cathedral. In Brazil, it is San Salvador de Bahia and Third Order of San Francisco. Here more examples. San Francisco, Lima, Santo Domingo, Lima, Convent of La Merced in Lima, Palace Torre Tagle in Lima, and Third Order of San Francisco in Brazil. And it's finished. This is just summary of all the pictures. Okay. I show more pictures. This is the convents. Xochimilco, Huejotzingo, Atlatlaucan, Izamal, Calpan, Cholula, Tepeaca, Zócalo, Mexico. This is the route. Fortified cities, San Juan de Ulúa, Boca Grande, Boca Chica, Portobelo, La Habana, Santo Domingo, México is the outside. Puebla, Mérida, Oaxaca, Pátzcuaro, Lima, Cusco, no Baroque, Santa María Tonantzintla, México, Zacatecas, Santa Prisca, Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe, San Francisco Acatepec, this with the wonderful colors. Palace of Inquisition, these flying arches. Pocito Chapel, El Sagrario, Tlaxcala, and then South America. San Francisco in Lima, Santo Domingo, Convent of La Merced, another Convent of La Merced, Convent of San Agustin, Torre Tagle Palace, Palace of Admiral in Cusco, Puno Cathedral in Cusco, and this in Brazil. and it's finished. One moment, I'm going to just start with this. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the literature. As I said before, it's just Spanish literature. So I'm going to search La vida es un sueño, Al Calderón de la Barca. Just check if there are some pictures. So this one is about the freedom of human being to create its own life without trusting or following the destiny. It's a drama to inherit a throne. There are characters like Segismundo, Rosaura, Basilio, Clotaldo, Astolfo, Estrella, Clarín. And I wrote a sentence that is very beautiful. What is life? An illusion. But all life is a dream, and the dreams are. It's as well. All these books I'm mentioning are very short, and I really recommend them. Then there are Francisco de Quevedo and Luis de Góngora. These two are poets. Quevedo. There are two different poets. Okay, so these two. So they have many poems, obviously. And for me, Francisco de Quevedo has the most beautiful poems. Luis de Góngora, his poems are more like he creates a kind of movement called culteranism, and it's like he uses hard words on purpose, and the topics are about mythology and philosophy and these kind of things. So these two poets also fight themselves, like they create poems to insult each other, especially Quevedo to Góngora. It's like Góngora replies a bit, he creates two poems as reply, but Quevedo makes a lot of points to insult him. So there are, I mentioned some sentences, especially from Quevedo, I like there's a poem called Constant Love Further Than Death, that has a sentence that says, thus will, hard to translate into English because this is Spanish, but thus they will be, but in love dust. Then there is the poem of the insulting Góngora that is called To a Man with a Great Nose. Once upon a time, a man to a nose stuck. Like the nose is so big that it's not the nose stuck in the face of the man, it's the man stuck to the nose. Then another poem that is Powerful Knight is Lord Money. It's so weird to translate this in English. In Spanish is Poderoso Caballero es Don Dinero. Powerful Knight is Lord Money. Some poems about life passing so fast. How short is life? Yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not arrived. The life is short and passes fast. Everything is taken by the short year. So this is just a bit about Quevedo. I like his poetry. And then Luis de Góngora, as I said, more mythological, philosophical. Nothing much to say, honestly. Then another one is El Burlador de Sevilla. I don't know how to translate this to English. One moment. Burlador. The Mocker of Sevilla. The Mocker of Sevilla is the myth of Don Juan. It's the archetype of the man who goes seducing women and tricking them, cheating them to have sex with them, and then he goes away. The myth of Don Juan that said a man who is a trickster who cheats women to have sex. He's a sexual predator. So in the story, the first story is El Burlador de Sevilla by Tirso de Molina. Tirso de Molina is the author. Later in time, there are other writers that write more literature about this character, but I will tell about that in its time. So for now, this one the story of this one is he's in Naples and he seduced the Duchess Isabella after cheating, and Isabella is angry. Oh, and by the way, I must say why it's important for the topic, because if a man does this, like cheating a woman to have sex and then goes away, that means that the woman has lost the honor. And if the woman has lost the honor, she cannot marry. So first, the honor must be restored. How? Normally by killing the one who made the honor to be lost. So it's like, spoiler about the end, when Don Juan dies, then the honor of all the women is restored and then they can marry and have their own life. But overall the story, Don Juan cheats the woman and then the women are like trying to find him. They are angry and asking for help to find him and make that he has a punishment. So okay, I continue. And then after cheating the Duchess Isabella in Naples, he flees to Spain, and when he arrives, she seduces many women. Like she seduces a fisherwoman. I remember that. I think he also seduced another woman, but I don't remember exactly. Then the action starts to be more serious when he cheats a woman called Ana de Ulloa, because his father is Gonzalo de Ulloa and his father discovers him. Then they fight and Don Juan kills him and then he flees. He flees away. He has other adventures, cheating more women, and then when he returns to Sevilla, he finds the tomb of Gonzalo de Ulloa, and then he mocks him and invites him to have a dinner in his house, just as a mock. Then at night, he's going to have a dinner and someone knocks in the door, and it is the statue of Gonzalo de Ulloa. Then he enters because he invited him to have dinner, and Gonzalo de Ulloa, as a spirit, is having a dinner with him and his servant. So at the end of the dinner, then Gonzalo de Ulloa asks him to come to have a dinner in his chapel. So that happens. Don Juan goes to the chapel to have dinner with him, and he takes him to hell. Literally, it's like he holds his hand and takes him to hell. So when Don Juan dies, then the honor of the woman that he cheats is restored. Okay, and the last author is Lope de Vega. He does poetry and also theater and such. The poetries, I read a few, and they are beautiful, mostly about love, emotion, and such. And theater that I read also is called Fuente Ovejuna. Lope de Vega. Okay, Fuente Ovejuna is a theater where he shows the social conflict between the powerful and the oppressed. There is there is a powerful man that is called Fernand Gomez, who rapes a girl that is I don't remember the word. It's not far. A peasant. I don't remember the word. He rapes a peasant called Laurencia, who is the promise of Frondoso. She is going to marry with a man called Frondoso. And then the people of Fuente Ovejuna ends killing Fernand Gomez. And at the end, the Catholic kings forgive the people. And in the judgment, there is a judgment to see who killed Fernand Gomez. And then the judge is asking, who killed Fernand Gomez? And the people reply, it was Fuente Ovejuna. It was the whole town. And then the judge is like, the judge asks one person, who killed Fernand Gomez? And the person replies, Fuente Ovejuna maybe. And then the judge is, what are you saying? You are not answering my question. I'm going to ask someone else. So then the judge asks another person, who killed Fernand Gomez? And this person replies, Fuente Ovejuna did. So it's like all the people say that Fuente Ovejuna, who is the town, killed Fernand Gomez. So that is the story. It's also very short and very interesting to read. So well, it is finished. I have finished now. So, as I said at the beginning, the Christian Europe is finished, and the next one will be neoclassicism. So until that moment, have a good time and see you next time.